Hi, my name is Dave Fako from BES Shed Barbecue and Catering in Lemont, Illinois. We're going to be putting a series of videos together showing you a variety of techniques, methods on cooking, the use of different tools, prepping, different food. We focus and specialize on barbecue, but we're going to show you a wide variety of things. What we're going to do today is show you how to prep pork shoulders for smoking, preparing to cook. We're not actually going to cook them in this video. We're just going to simply go through the prep work on them. But the first thing we want to know is that barbecue is fun. I always like to say barbecue isn't cooking, it's a sport, it's an adventure. We always like to have a beer with our barbecue. So we're going to start with a good old Texas beer, where obviously barbecue is essentially a religion. We're going to say cheers to barbecue in Texas, even though we're doing Carolina style today. So the first thing we're going to start here with is prepping the pork shoulders for smoking. So what we have here are two bone-in pork shoulders. At your grocer, you might see them known as Boston butt, pork shoulder, etc. They'll come under all different names. I prefer to use the bone-in version because for two reasons. One, it helps keep the meat together during the cooking process, and two, that bone actually adds flavor during the cooking process. The other thing I do like it is when you're done cooking it, that bone can be used as kind of a heater in the meat. It kind of helps keep it warm after you pull it. Our first step here is to pat the shoulders dry. Now I already did this before we started filming, but what you want to do is just pat through the shoulders and get all the major moisture or some of the excess blood that might be sitting on them off. These are already pretty dry, so we really don't need to do it all that much. So we're just going to get rid of this and move to the next step. Now that we're done patting the shoulders dry, the next step in the process is to trim them. But before we go to that step, obviously food safety is now a very big thing in our world. I would highly recommend wearing food safety gloves during this process. What you want to do here is trim the excess fat on the meat. We do not need to trim all the fat. In fact, you want to leave some of it on because it helps flavor and moisturize the meat during the cooking process. But you just want to get rid of some of the excess. What you essentially want to do is leave about a 1/4 inch, a little bit more, a little bit less. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not, we're not building a rocket to go to the moon. We don't need everything to be perfect here. It's barbecue, it's a sport, it's an adventure. So we just want to trim it. We're going to start with this one process. We're going to keep that fat too because as a famous chef used to say, pork fat rules. We can use it for other stuff. Kind of go with I like to kind of trim lengthwise. The reason for it is it goes a little bit more efficiently. You get more of it off in one shot rather than taking it off in little pieces. And you'll notice I'm cutting away from my fingers. There's a reason for that. We're here to cook pork butts, not Dave's fingers. Get that little sucker off here. This is kind of a fat butt. Now that we're done trimming the butts, the next step is going to be to rubbing it. You'll see that we've got these trimmed down to about a 1/4 inch in the thickest parts. We're going to get these butts ready to move on for the rubbing. We want to get them ready for the rubbing by a little slapping. What we're going to do is use our Lexington style rub. It's really more of a blend of the Carolina styles. Our rub focuses on the Carolina styles when we do our pork. It's kind of a nice blend of paprika, garlic, onion, mustard powder, a few other salt and pepper, and some sugar, etc. So you got a nice good rub here that meets the Carolina styles. The first thing I want to do is, if you notice, I took my left glove off. That's so I don't contaminate the rub container while I'm rubbing them. So I'm going to flip them over because I'm going to start on the bottom. What you want to do is just put a nice, healthy sprinkling on. I like to rub pretty heavily. The rub does a couple different things for the meat. First of all, it simply adds flavor. It also creates a good bark. So the sugar in here will crystallize and gives you that really tasty, yummy, dark brown, blackish stuff after the smoking process. And that's part of the reason we're doing the rub. The other reason we're rubbing this and we're doing this the night before we plan to cook tomorrow morning is to let the flavors absorb into the meat, particularly the salt. We want the salt to get into there. So that looks pretty good. Put a little bit here. Get a little bit on the sides. we're done rubbing the meat, we're going to prepare for the next step, which is to wrap them. I want you to understand that this is an overnight process. You don't have to rub the night before. Sometimes you can rub just before you put them on the smoker. But allowing the rub to sit on the meat overnight allows the flavor of the rub to seep into the meat. It allows, particularly with the salt, it really helps enhance the flavor. And like I was describing earlier, this rub adds flavor, but it also helps build that wonderful bark you really want after you get done smoking the pork shoulders. There's several different techniques to do this. The best one, and what my recommended one, is to wrap them in plastic wrap. The reason for this is it kind of holds everything in tight, plus it keeps this rub and the pork and all that from stinking up your refrigerator like pork and rub. And you just don't want that, because then your lovely partner or wife gets bad at you when the refrigerator stinks like pork and rub. So we gotta fix it. Before we go to the rub, though, we're going to have one more sip of the Texas beer. I was told I can't name the brand. The Texas beer from barbecue. So we're going to have another sip of the Bach. So the first step in this is to get the plastic out. So I do not have the bigger commercial grade plastic wraps here with me today, but we're just going to do this. Get a couple of pieces out. And we're going to set them here. And the first thing we're going to do is one more piece. Put that right there. We're going to start with our first butt. We're going to pick up a butt and put it on the plastic wrap. Okay. Now we're almost done wrapping. We got the first pork butt wrapped. We're going to finish wrapping the second one. So what you want to do is get the plastic around it pretty tightly. Doesn't have to be perfect again. Like I always keep on saying, it's barbecue. It's a sport. It's an adventure. It's not some precision science. Just get the plastic on there. Return it back to the pan. And we're all set to put these away for the evening. Here's how this is going to work. What we're going to do is let these sit overnight. And as I explained earlier, let that rub really absorb into the meat and flavorize it. Get the salt in there, etc. What we're going to do tomorrow morning then, take these out of here, we're going to set up the smoker, and we're going to start smoking these butts. Typically the process takes somewhere between 8 and 10 hours, sometimes up to 12 to 14 for shoulders. These ones are a little on the smaller side, so they'll probably go a little quicker. But our next video is going to show you how to do that. So until that next segment, the next video, what I'd like to do is just say we'll see you next time. And remember, I'm from Dave Fako from Big Ed's Shed. Like us on Facebook. So a final cheers to the pork butts with our Texas beer. Bye.